They have taught you to chase happiness the way a dog chases its tail. And like the dog, you never catch it, only spin in circles until you collapse from exhaustion. That is the modern soul. Dizzy, drooling, obedient, and proud of its leash. But I do not speak to dogs. I speak to the restless, to the haunted, to the ones who wake at midnight with the heavy feeling that something is terribly wrong, not outside, but inside. That the laughter around them is hollow, that the smiles are stitched on with fear, that the life they lead is a borrowed script, written by cowards and delivered with trembling hands. And worst of all, they suspect, these half-awake souls, that their time is not theirs, that they are living on loan, on autopilot, on the mercy of clocks and calendars and dead men's ideas. That beneath the comfort, beneath the soft pleasures and glowing screens, there's a scream, muffled but growing. That scream is your soul. You call it anxiety, you call it depression, you call it burnout. I call it the first honest reaction to a dishonest life. You were not made to chase pleasure like cattle chasing grain. You were not born to serve survival like a slave. You were born to stand before the abyss and choose, yes or no, again and again, until the hammer of time rings out your answer. And most of you have never even heard the question. Happiness? That flabby idol of the modern age? That bloated, smiling corpse they parade through the streets and kneel before like fools, worshiping their own chains? Let me tear the veil. Your so-called happiness is a lie told to keep you docile. It is a sugar-coated cage, a sedative, a dream injected into your veins so that you may sleep through life and never once ask the dreadful, magnificent question, am I awake? What is this happiness you cherish so dearly? A comfortable bed, a full belly, a job that doesn't kill you, yet also doesn't quicken your blood, a partner who doesn't scream, a weekend free from pain, a holiday that postpones despair. You call this joy? I call it anesthesia. The man who lives for happiness is already half dead. He does not desire greatness, only ease. He does not seek truth, only relief. He is not a creator, but a consumer, gorging himself on entertainments and distractions while his soul withers in silence. They have sold you happiness like a product. Smiling faces on advertisements, glowing testimonials, 10 simple steps to inner peace. But real peace does not come cheaply, and joy cannot be bought. It must be earned in struggle, in suffering, in the battle with oneself. It is a byproduct of meaning, not its substitute. And here is the bitter truth. Most of you would rather be comfortably numb than painfully alive. You fear the fire that forges. You fear the heights that demand risk. You fear your own becoming. But happiness, true happiness, is not a warm bath. It is a lightning strike. It is the ecstasy of a soul on fire with purpose. You will not find it in comfort. You will find it in the furnace. Beneath the carefully arranged smiles, beneath the polite nods and cheerful greetings, there is a howling, a vast black howl that stretches through the soul of modern man like a crack in the earth. It is not spoken of. It is not acknowledged. But it grows. This is nihilism, not the loud, defiant scream of rebellion, but the quiet rot of meaninglessness. It wears a mask of optimism. It says, everything is fine, while burying itself alive. The modern man believes in nothing, but he pretends to believe in everything. He claps for progress, but feels no awe. He praises freedom, yet lives enslaved to routine. He talks of love, but fears to feel. His gods are dead, yet he still mouths their prayers. Out of habit, not conviction. He is a ghost in flesh, a marionette of moods. He laughs without joy, works without purpose, and dies without ever having lived. And the tragedy? He calls this normal. Nihilism does not come with fire and revolution. It comes with contentment, with satisfaction, with the small pleasures that numb the question, why? Why rise? Why strive? Why suffer? If nothing matters, then why not be happy? Ah, but there it is. The abyss disguised as a smile. They do not believe in meaning, yet they seek happiness. But happiness without meaning is a mask on a corpse. It slips, and beneath it, madness. Sooner or later, the mask falls, and then the abyss stares back. When the abyss was glimpsed, when man first trembled before the cold truth that the universe neither knows nor cares, what did he do? He invented a lie. He called it heaven. He wrapped it in gold and clouds and harps and thrones, and then he bowed before it. He crowned the void with a king and named his chains salvation. This is the slave's answer to suffering, a fantasy, the promise that pain has meaning only elsewhere, not here, not now. That joy is reserved for the obedient, the meek, the small, that the great reversal will come after death, when the last shall be first, and the first, those mighty, proud, defiant ones, shall burn. A revenge tale written by the weak. They call it virtue, to endure, to forgive, to obey. But beneath the robes of humility festers resentment. The slave cannot climb, so he curses the mountain. He cannot become, so he condemns all becoming. He cannot create, so he canonizes stagnation and calls it peace. And happiness? For the slave, it is not conquest or creation, it is permission. The permission to suffer silently, to hope passively, to believe blindly, to wait for another world instead of shaping this one with fire and fury. Do you see now? The lie of heaven is not too high, it is too low. It is not too divine, it is too human. A mirror of fear, not a beacon of greatness. The free spirit does not kneel before fantasies. He dares the world to be what it is, cruel, chaotic, glorious. He does not escape suffering, he transforms it. But the herd? They dream of gates, of judgment, of reward, because they have never dared to create their own worth. They are happy only when they are told to be. Let me give you no comfort. Let me place in your hand not a flower, but a hammer, a thought forged in fire. What if this life, this very life, with every breath, every shame, every ecstasy and error, had to be lived again? Not once more, but again and again, endlessly. No salvation, no escape, no final judgment. Only this, the eternal return of every moment you have ever lived. Would you scream? Would you curse the stars and collapse in terror? Or would you fall to your knees, not in prayer, but in reverence, and whisper, yes, again? This is not a metaphor. This is not philosophy wrapped in riddles. This is the most brutal test of your soul. Do you affirm your life? Not the fantasy, not the ideal, but the real. The broken relationships, the humiliations, the wasted years, the unbearable nights. Would you endure them again? Not because you must, but because you would? Or do you live like a coward, dreaming of elsewhere, of someday, of another life where things finally go right? Ah, but there is no other life. This is the circle. This is the wheel. There's no beginning, no end, only repetition. You are the author, the actor, and the audience of your own eternity. The doctrine of eternal recurrence is no comfort to the faint-hearted. It crushes the lazy, exposes the hypocrite, annihilates the liar. It demands that you create a life so radiant, so fierce, that you would choose it again, willingly, joyfully, eternally. It is not a threat, it is a challenge. A challenge to live so that you become worthy of your own repetition. Can you face that? Most cannot. They recoil. They call it madness. But I call it the highest standard ever conceived, the philosopher's crucible, the hammer of fate. Do not look away now. The hammer has struck. The bell has rung. The great question echoes through the cavern of your soul. Would you live it again? Would you return to that moment of betrayal? That failure you hide behind silence? Would you embrace your humiliations, your regrets, your deepest losses, as if they were sacred rites in the temple of your becoming? Or would you flinch? Would you beg the gods, whom you secretly no longer believe in, for mercy, for forgetfulness, for death? You see now, how few dare to affirm. How few have lived in such a way that they could cry out, yes, once more and forever. Most drag themselves through life, through a tunnel, eyes on some distant exit, never once looking around, never once saying, this is it. You wait for happiness like rain in the desert, while letting the sun of now scorch your soul dry. But this question, this eternal return, it demands an answer every second. With every act you declare, I would live this again. So, when you rise tomorrow in bitterness, in boredom, and dread, know this: you have already answered. You have already chosen. Not with words, but with your habits, your fears, your refusals. And if your answer is no, then your life is a condemnation. You have not lived, you have fled, you have postponed yourself. And eternity, cruel and honest, has recorded your silence. They flee. Oh, how they flee. Not from death. No, death they romanticize. They dress it in poetry, in velvet, in promises of peace. It is not death that terrifies them. It is recurrence. The thought that this day, this routine, this tepid smile at breakfast, this hollow conversation, this ache of wasted time, will return endlessly, identically, inescapably. That is the true horror. So they run not with their feet, but with their distractions. Into noise, into novelty, into consumption. The screen, the bottle, the creed, they are not pleasures. They are shelters, shields against the horror of time's mirror. They say, live in the moment, but they mean forget the eternal. They meditate not to awaken, but to sleep more peacefully inside the dream. They worship mindfulness, the way addicts worship their needle, seeking not presence but relief. Look at the modern man. He cannot sit still. He cannot be alone. He cannot hear his own thoughts without panic. Because the moment he stops fleeing, the question appears, is this a life I would choose again? And the answer, if answered honestly, would shatter him. But you, if you would be free, must stop running. You must turn and face that mirror. You must see your habits, your choices, your life laid bare, and then choose it, or change it. Let the cowards flee. Let the masses numb themselves with artificial light. You, if you dare, must stand in the dark and ask, would I will this once more? And if not, then what must be destroyed? You have been deceived by a myth, the most seductive of all modern lies, progress. They told you history moves forward, that life improves, that humanity is on a noble path toward perfection. They worship the future like their fathers worshiped God, blindly, stupidly, piously. But time is not a staircase. It is a wheel. And you are not ascending. You are circling. The same fears, the same wars, the same empty promises dressed in new language. Civilization changes its clothes and calls it evolution. It swaps crowns for parliaments, altars for algorithms, and declares itself enlightened. But it is still the same creature, sick of fear, hungry for comfort, terrified of truth. Progress. They cry it like a hymn while sleepwalking toward the abyss. Every gadget, every app, every policy, offered as proof that the world is getting better. But no one asks, better for whom? Better toward what? They cannot answer because they have no direction. They drift. They invent values one day and discard them the next. And when they are bored, they call it freedom. They build towers to forget they are circling ruins. They speak of the future to distract from their cowardice in the present. But beneath their inventions, their institutions, their ideologies, the human soul still howls, still bleeds, still asks the same burning question: why? Eternal recurrence shatters the lie of progress. It reveals that nothing moves unless you move. That time offers no rescue, no redemption, no reward, only repetition. If your life is unbearable, it will return. If your choices are hollow, they will echo. If your values are borrowed, they will rot. There is no forward. There is only again. And unless you break the cycle by forging meaning with your own hands, you are condemned to worship motion while going nowhere. Here, now, we arrive at the fork in the eternal path, though most pass it without ever seeing. On one side, the will to power. On the other, the will to sleep. Choose. The will to power is not domination over others. No, that is the vulgar misunderstanding of tyrants and bureaucrats. True power is the force that shapes chaos into form. It is the architect of values, the sculptor of the self, the fire that says yes to life and makes that yes a reality. It is creation, not control. But creation demands responsibility. It demands pain. It demands the terrifying freedom to stand without excuses, without gods, without permission, and say, I will. The weak recoil from this. They long not for power, but for anesthesia. They want to sleep. The will to sleep is the religion of the modern world. Its temples are filled with screens and slogans. It tells you, don't question, just enjoy. Don't struggle, just cope. Don't seek meaning, just manage symptoms. Every time you say, I can't, every time you reach for distraction instead of direction, you surrender to it. It seduces you not with suffering, but with comfort. Not with whips, but with cushions. It does not kill you. It sedates you. And so most sleep through their lives soft, safe, numb, until death finally wakes them and they wonder, was I ever alive at all? But you, if you would be more than dust, must choose the will to power. You must shape your suffering, your desire, your time into a life that demands repetition. Not because you must, but because you would. That is power. That is freedom. That is the yes that makes the eternal return a triumph, not a curse. Now listen, can you hear him? He laughs, not because life is easy, not because pain has vanished, not because the world is kind, but because he has overcome it, because he has looked into the eternal mirror and seen his own becoming, his own fire, his own will reflected back. And he said, again? Yes. 1,000 times yes. This is the Übermensch, not a man of muscles or metals, but of style, of strength, of self-creation. He is not given meaning, he gives it. He does not wait for truth, he forges it. He's not a victim of fate, he is its author. He laughs because he knows what the herd cannot bear to admit, that life has no meaning, except the one you give it, that values are not found in holy books or democratic votes. They are born in solitude, in struggle, in the furnace of the self. He has passed the test of the eternal recurrence. He has dared to will his life eternally, not because it is perfect, but because it is his, entirely his. And you? You still seek permission to exist. You still ask the world to justify your breath. You still cling to borrowed morals, secondhand hopes, prepackaged dreams. But the Übermensch? He has cast all that aside. He walks alone. He dances with his demons. He builds altars to joy where others see only ruins. And when time offers him his life again, he does not flinch. He laughs. And now, the wound is open. Let us pour the salt. Why will most people never be happy? Not because they are poor, not because they suffer, not because the world is cruel, but because they are cowards. Happiness is not handed down like an inheritance. It is seized like a sword. It is not discovered. It is created. And most will never create. They will conform. They will obey. They will repeat the tired rituals of safety and mediocrity, hoping the gods of comfort will bless them. But the gods are dead, and comfort is a liar. Most will never be happy because happiness, real happiness, demands responsibility. It demands the courage to say, "This is my life. I choose it. I shape it. I suffer for it." But they do not choose. They follow. They do not shape. They adapt. They do not suffer for greatness. They suffer to avoid discomfort. They do not live. They wait. They wait for the weekend, for the promotion, for the vacation, for retirement, for heaven. Always waiting for happiness to arrive like a delayed train at the station of their small existence. But happiness does not arrive. It erupts. It explodes from the soul of one who dares to say yes to the eternal, yes to becoming, yes to the fire of freedom. And so most people, even those who smile the widest, live lives they would never choose twice. Their joy is imitation. Their peace is sedation. Their meaning is borrowed, and their laughter echoes over the void of their unlived lives. They will never be happy because they refuse the cost of happiness, the risk of self. But you, if you are still listening, can choose otherwise, if you dare. And when the cowards have won, when the fire has gone out of their eyes, when risk has been outlawed, when greatness is mocked and suffering is medicated, what remains? The last man. He is the future they call progress. He is the final product of their civilization of safety. He does not burn. He does not build. He does not believe. He only exists. They have robbed him of all danger, and with it, all depth. He has no gods, no demons, no hunger for the stars. His highest value, comfort, his greatest virtue, tolerance, his ultimate goal, to avoid inconvenience. And yes, he is happy. Happy like a cow in a warm field, happy like an insect in amber. He blinks, he smiles, he consumes. He says, "We have invented happiness." And he forgets how to weep. He no longer wars, because he no longer desires. He no longer creates, because he no longer suffers. He no longer asks why, because he no longer cares. He fears only one thing, the return of the great question. Would you live this again? The last man cannot answer. He has no story, no scars, no songs. He is the end of man, the perfect animal, declawed, defanged, content. And Nietzsche, the madman with eyes of lightning, cries out, "I show you the last man." And the people, they cheered. They cheered. But I do not cheer. I mourn, and I dance. For where the last man sleeps, the Dionysian awakens. Not in comfort, but in chaos. Not in stability, but in storm. He does not seek to avoid suffering. He plunges into it, drinks it like wine, and turns it into song. Joy. Yes, joy. Not the numb smile of the tranquilized, but the roaring, bleeding, radiant joy of one who has stared into the abyss and laughed. Do you think tragedy is the enemy of joy? Then you have understood nothing. Tragedy is the mother of joy. Without the fall, no ascent. Without the wound, no glory. Without the chaos, no creation. The Greeks, those wild wise ones, knew this. In their temples to Dionysus, they sang their grief into beauty. They did not escape life, they transfigured it. That is the path you must reclaim. You want happiness? Then earn it. Face life, not as a child begging for sweets, but as a god in the making. Do not flee pain, forge it. Do not resent tragedy. Wrestle it into form. Dance with your demons, and they will teach you steps no angel knows. The herd hides from this truth. They prefer security over depth, sedation over ecstasy. But you, if you are to be more than a shadow, must dare the tragic, dare the heights, dare the fall. That is where joy lives. Not in safety, in struggle. That is the Dionysian truth. Joy is not the absence of suffering, it is its affirmation. And now, beneath all the rubble of your collapsed certainties, one word remains. Yes. Not the yes of the agreeable, not the yes of the submissive, but the yes of the Creator. The yes that says, I take it all. The sorrow and the splendor, the failure and the flame, the shame, the ecstasy, the unbearable beauty of becoming, I take it all. This yes is not naive. It knows the price. It has bled. It has stood naked before time's cruel mirror and whispered, even this, I choose again. That is affirmation. Not an escape from life, not a denial of its horror, but the wild, defiant, overflowing acceptance of it. The cry of a soul that no longer needs a reason to live, because it is the reason. That does not seek approval, because it has become law unto itself. This yes is the lightning that splits the sky of nihilism. It is the only answer to the eternal recurrence. To will your life not despite its pain, but because of it. Not in search of perfection, but as a dance with fate. And only he who has affirmed, who has turned the wheel and smiled, can be called free. All others are still waiting, still bargaining, still postponing the real. Say no and you survive. Say yes and you live. This is the highest courage. Not to endure life, but to embrace it. To look eternity in the eye and declare, again, again, again. Yes. So now, what remains? The path is before you, and it is not paved. It coils like a serpent, sharp with thorns, alive with fire. It does not promise happiness. It does not offer safety. It demands one thing only, that you live dangerously, not recklessly, not as a fool plunges into chaos without aim, but dangerously as the artist carves into stone, as the lover surrenders to desire, as the philosopher dances on the edge of madness. Live as if every step echoes in eternity, as if every breath will return, as if every choice must be made not once, but forever. This is the ethic of the eternal. No excuse survives it, no lie escapes it, no cowardice hides. You want meaning? Then create it. You want joy? Then deserve it. You want freedom? Then bear its weight. Everything else is illusion, smoke for the sleeping. Burn your old scripts, kill your borrowed gods, shatter the mirror that shows you only who you should be, and then build. Build yourself like a temple without blueprint, like a song no one else can hear, like a lightning bolt striking again and again until the sky remembers your name. Become the one for whom life, in all its terror and glory, becomes a sacred task, not to endure, not to escape, but to affirm. And if, at the end, the demon returns and asks, would you live it again? You will not tremble. You will smile. You will say, yes.